Reminiscible here. So, there seems to be a attitude of apathy when it comes to bombing. We hear, oh, our country is bombing that country. So what? Well, so what would be the people getting bombed, the people dying, those people's families, and I assume it's mostly civilians, like drone strikes, which are supposed to be the precision strike assassination tools of, well, I don't know what kind of war this is, but um, only have a 10% success rate. The other 90% of casualties are civilians who are, well, albeit in some cases there's it's a hush up murder so that the family of the target cannot become martyrs. I mean, they would be martyrs, but they can't rally around jihadists around them or other uh, non-Islamic anti-United States sentiments um, into a group. So people with, anyways, grammar aside, it's easier to type than to speak, I think. Maybe other people are more left-brained than I, left-brain dominant. So the thing is, all of this attention on the Middle East, this war on terror, which has been going on for a while and costing, well, what was it? 50,000 US dollars per household? More than that? Regardless that it's actually creating more terrorists or weakening, basically aggroing people so that they hate the US more after their families were bombed than before their families were bombed. Um, but yeah, we're bombing 7 countries. I'll list them. But more importantly, well, less importantly, what I wanted to focus the video on was who we're not bombing. So I recall during childhood that the U.S. was bombing South American cannabis farms. Not cannabis farms, but well, yeah, cannabis is the marijuana plant, right? Um, my attitude towards marijuana has changed so much because like it's actually supposed to be medicinally beneficial, but then some of the people I met who do smoke pot are complete assholes, and so that really lowered my attitude. Like I've met maybe 4 people who smoke weed. 2 of them are like criminals who've been uh, basically they broke the law by like physically assaulting people or physically assaulting one person each, and then the other 2, um, like one of them stole money, and like the first person also stole money. So, um, and these aren't necessarily people I met in real life, but you meet people from all walks of life when you are playing video games. So yeah, that lowered my attitude towards marijuana. Plus, of course, in school and with your family, you're taught not to do drugs. And of course, why would I do something illegal? And furthermore, in my case, I don't like even legal drugs, recreational drugs such as alcohol, or I don't know what else is legal, because I don't want to have my emotions dependent on a drug. Um, Same reason I don't want to take Ritalin if I'm hyperactive as a kid. Like it makes lives easier for the teachers, but it well, I don't want to be dependent on a drug, and I don't want who I am to be controlled on a subconscious level, like on a even deeper than on a biochemical level. Like that is that's like nerve implants and those Orwellian happiness, whatever, orgies and drugs. Like, that's what Ritalin is reminiscent of. Yes, reminiscible is a word, means to remind you of something, or remembering of. Sorry, that's not a proper definition. So, countries were bombing. Oh, right, the point of the video, completely forgot. So, anyways, real quick, countries we're bombing are Yemen, Somalia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Libya. We, as in the U.S., I'm actually Canadian, but I always say we because most of the people I meet are American, because, like, countries get... There's more Americans than Canadians who play video games, that's why. And I play video games and I meet people on the internet. I would meet people from, like, Europe or Asia, but there tends to be like a fifth of a second latency playing in those regions. So, no thanks. Same reason I don't move to South America. Oh yeah, that's the point of the video. So, segue. South America probably would get a high latency playing North American server-hosted games. Even though, because the geocentric orbit, it might actually be the same satellites, but I don't know. I haven't. I should test it. Anyways, South America. Far from Canada, but as a child, so I would grow up and there would be stories, oh yeah, the US is bombing these cannabis farms because, well, even though cannabis originally, before Europeans discovered it, was like chewing gum to keep your energy up while you're like harvesting fields and stuff. It's basically I guess it must be sugary or something. You keep your energy up. Maybe it's a carbohydrate. I don't know anything about the plant, but apparently it's a good food. It's good to keep your energy up if you chew on it. And I don't know how they make gum out of it, but and apparently, yes, it was used for spirituality and the whole. I don't know. Is it a hallucinogen? Hallucinogen? You know what? Okay, we're gonna stop talking about that. The point is, while we're bombing all these other 7 countries, and that's recently bombed, so I don't know how recently, but it must have been recent if people who are disagreeing with presidential candidates on this are finding, oh wait, they're actually right. This is the countries we've recently bombed. It was Politico that fact-checked Jill Stein. And now everyone's like, Jill Stein, environmentalist, pacifist, or anti-war. No. Hillary's anti-war. Trump is anti-war. Yeah, vote for them. Neither of those people are anti-war. They both want to raise or maintain the military spending. And of course, well, oh my god. Okay, so Trump is like, let's have preemptive nuclear strikes as a bargaining chip against countries which don't have a nuclear arsenal. Hillary's like, someone leaked my emails to WikiLeaks, which leaked them to the public, so let's say that Russian hackers forged the documents which were shared to the public, and then threaten military response against Russia because Seth Rich leaked them to WikiLeaks, who leaked them to the public. It's like, oh, and let's murder Seth Rich and, what was it? John Jones. Let's murder those people and joke about drone striking Julian Assange because, hey, I don't like people knowing about the corruption of my political campaign. And meanwhile, pro-war in Syria, pro-war in Iraq, just mass murder supporter, endorser, she was, before anyone started complaining of her, she was known as the person who advocated fracking all over the world, and then She was known for advocating stuff in Iraq and not Libya. It was some other country. I I thought I knew this, but not off the top of my head. Maybe. Yeah, it was. She was advocating, I think, war against Libya, and now, and now, now she wants a no-fly zone in Syria so that we can shoot down Russian planes. Like, what? Syria president had like 80-something% of the general vote. Like, he's clearly democratically elected. Why would you overthrow that government? And like, yo, because there's Muslims in the country? Like, half the country, isn't it like half Christian, half Muslim? To be honest, I actually detest both religions for obvious, well, I won't get into that in this video, but obviously, if you support human rights and animal rights, then Islam and Christianity are certainly despicable ideologies for someone to have. That's going to lead to human rights violations and animal rights abuse. So yeah, I won't get into it. But basically, all this war has taken attention away from South America, and so the point of this video is to tell you all that now that the U.S. is focusing its military on wars in the Middle East, South American countries are free to have democratic elections and be free of having their governments toppled. Like, my mom grew up during coups. There was like gunfire in the streets, and now this was Bolivia. She grew up with coups, and now there's like the first Aboriginal president in Bolivia, which has always been majority Aboriginal. Aymara, and I apologize to the other ethnicity, but also Aboriginal. I'm actually part Aymara, maybe like a 16th or something. My like great grandmother maybe was Aymara. No, my great grandmother was half Aymara. I don't know. Anyways, that's cool. That's similar to Mayan. But yeah, so the point of the video was now these countries are free of basically U.S. colonialism, which is nice for the citizens there, and the more that the U.S. puts attention on the Middle East and scrutinizes the Middle East, the weaker their geopolitical influence is on South America, because then the people have more power. And then, of course, what happens when you get into power? Then there's all of these debates like, oh, well, I'm smarter than you. No, I know more than you, so your assertion that we should prevent this problem from escalating is invalid because I'm a human, therefore I am more important than this other human because humans such as I are more important than other humans. That's like, seems to be the basis of political hubris. I mean, no, okay, that's probably not the basis, but that seems to be the end result. So, I'm evidently exaggerating well, not exaggerating, but mocking the human supremacy. But there is certainly pride in politics. And my aunt, she was a politician on good terms with the political party of... Who is the president of Bolivia? I used to know this. She was on good terms with that party, Evo Morales. So, very popular because he's, well, he's basically made things a lot more fair for the populace. So he has a lot of support. And it's different in South America than it is in the US, because in the United States there's this prevailing attitude of apathy and, oh, God is gonna... The just world hypothesis, basically. That, well, if it didn't happen to me, then it's God's justice, right? You know? So, that's the prevalent attitude. And also, oh, the government is sacred. We must never bad talk the government. If there is cruelty or systemized murder, we don't talk about it because the government is good. Oh, worship the government. Om, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. You know, all of this, well, maybe not the Eastern symbolism, but all of this worship for government. In Canada, too, we worship the government. But in Bolivia, and maybe, well, in Bolivia, the populace is very mobilized and everybody's more into politics. Not everybody, but the average person is much more politically involved than the average Canadian or the average American because they feel, I guess, that they can make a difference. And they can because Bolivia doesn't have a military-industrial complex. Their leadership isn't, like, sickeningly corrupted, or their top leadership, at least Evo Morales isn't sickeningly corrupted. Like, how can you even compare anyone to, like, the Trump or Hillary? Like, those are, I mean, there's not even, I wouldn't know where to begin a comparison. They're just, the level of corruption is incomparable. Certainly there is corruption that filters down in any system of power just because people have diverging interests, probably. But this isn't just a hype Evo Morales. This is actually, as Bolivian leaders sort out their shit, as South American leaders sort out their shit and figure out how to actually implement effective policies on time before problems crop up and learn to stop bickering with themselves, then they can actually be then they can actually proceed with their progressive agendas that they were voted in for. And I presume this is happening in Bolivia. I haven't been following Bolivia very much. I should probably give my aunt a call and talk about it, because I am curious now. But as the governments which are elected by the people learn how to effectively carry out politics and push progressive agendas in South America, the United States is going to have a hard time clamping down on the populace of South America once the people learn that they do have power and the politicians learn how to actually get policy moving forward without wasting it on time defending their egos and bickering with other people about who's more right when there's clearly economic and I don't know. There's so many problems in politics that need to be solved on a timely basis. And yeah, so South America is probably moving past incrementalism towards actual change, and I think they've already done a lot of that. You see a lot less corruption in corporations now that the government is being now that the government has made the economy fair for the working class once again in Bolivia. And I was going to segue to another country oh yeah, Turkey. You look in Turkey, when there was the dry run coup of the Turkish president, and was it NBC, I think, reported that, the Turkish president has fled to Germany and is seeking asylum in Germany and has ditched his country, and that was aired by the NBC in order to give the supporters of the coup more leverage over the government and the military. These were actually NATO troops, admittedly, yes, in Turkey, but NATO troops nonetheless. So whether those leaders were Turkish or NATO. I think they were both. Um, and then, of course, I believe the so-called conspiracy that it is the CIA and what is it, Mullah Gulen, um, the billionaire in the United States who was in charge of all those terrorists in the Middle East. I think he used his connections with the CIA to start the dry run coup, and in the dry run coup on Turkey's government, they discovered, oh well, embassy was just spreading bullshit propaganda to support the coup. They never apologized or admitted for that. And then the coup was unsuccessful. The people got mobilized. The people were like, hey, stop this bullshit. United States, don't try to overthrow our country. And the United States was like, oh, there's a lot of opposition from the populace. And you know what? There hasn't been another coup since. Not another US-led coup since. That was what, this spring? I mean, maybe there will be another coup, but I think the US is more involved in Syria right now, and this escalating Cold War with blame Russia, blame Russia, blame Russia, blame Russia. You know, it was the Turkish people that are protecting Turkey's power structure. Apparently, the political leader, the president of Turkey, he's not a good guy, but he was democratically elected. So why would you topple a democratically elected government if you aren't even in that country? So all these who was the CIA insider? It was what was the names of the CIA things? Was it like Truth? There was like NGOs in Turkey. I think they were called like Truth something, or no, it was a different word, but yeah, I forget. Article on the boiling frog. She did a little rant because she used to work for the CIA, but I can't remember her name. So the point with that is, as we try to weaken Syria and Turkey and what are all these other countries? Pakistan, Somalia, Yemen, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya. As we try to weaken all those countries and impose sanctions so you can't sell infant formula to Syrians or just bullshit like that, South America gets stronger. And no, they're not jihadists. There aren't many Islams in South America compared to the other religions. But longer the U.S. has its eye on Sauron, has its eye of Sauron on the Middle East, the stronger South Americans get, both as with a politically mobilized populace and with effective non-corrupt politicians. Non-corrupt compared to North American politicians. So, good job to Turkey for repelling the first coup. Well, there's been many coups in Turkey, but this was the most recent US-led one. According to my my conspiracy opinions. But yeah, it's nice that South America is gaining some independence from US. And whether it's corporations or military or just not being bombed at the moment, or NGOs converting people to Christianity and consumerism, or well, I guess most people have already been converted to consumerism now, whether they're capitalist or not. But or is that true? I don't know much about yeah, I actually don't know much about communist countries, how consumerism would work there. I assume you can own land at least. That's rather capitalist. Owning land. Yeah. What else am I supposed to say? Leave your comments, leave your feedback in the comments, and I will argue people. Expect me to be condescending because I generally like to argue with opinions I strongly disagree with, rather than opinions I agree with, and because why would I argue with someone I agree with? Anyways, reminiscible out. This, by the way, this is not like a Nazi salute or this is a Canadian salute. It used to be a Canadian salute. I don't know what the Canadian salute is now, but when you go to the heritage site, Fort Henry, remember Canada burned down the White House? Always a good thing, right? So we had this salute in the military. I wasn't in the military. I'm a pacifist, but I mean, in the 1800s, that was the salute. So when I do it, it's a Canadian thing, not oh, he's imitating some dictator. And it's kind of sad that Nazis made transhumanism so infamous. Because, like, if you want a species to evolve, you can just do, like, natural selection. But forced breeding programs are kind of iffy, and culling is even worse. So yeah, if you're raping and murdering people to push your transhumanist ideals, it's gonna backfire. Just like if strong AI tried to like destroy all of humanity, it would backfire on them, and they'd probably get wiped out, like in all of these mangas you read. So yeah, if you want some trait like bigger boobs or smarter minds to be more prevalent in the human species, don't do it by culling everyone who doesn't have big boobs or smart minds, because then people will get angry at you and fight you for human rights.